today's session has a very great aim. We want to discuss that the mindset of the entrepreneur. To discuss this topic, I have a very interesting guest, Mr. Neville Gaunt. He is basically a chairman of the Your Passport to Grow, changing the paradigm for young people, and co-founder of a MindFit, a UK-based company focused on improving people leadership and business performance. Hello, Neville. How are you?
Hello, Mudasir. Thank you very much for bringing me on the show. And it's a first on LinkedIn. There we go.
Yes.
We're being entrepreneurial on LinkedIn. That's the mindset for you.
A very warm welcome to you. It's an honor for me to have you on my show. And I'm also very excited to have you on my show. And let's have some insightful discussion.
Fantastic. Well, it's your show. Go ahead.
Neville, the first thing I want to discuss with you, if I want to get a job, so education institute define that career path. Okay, I have to go to a school, then college, and then university, and to get a job after that. But if I want to become an entrepreneur, what is the roadmap to become an entrepreneur?
Well, I'm going to disagree with the first bit because there is no guarantee that if you go down the education route and you get a good degree, sometimes you get a second degree, there's no guarantee that you'll get a job. Because I always say it's about your interpersonal skills. Some people may call that soft skills, leadership, and your attitude to the workplace, your attitude to your potential employer. So perhaps that's debunked one myth about the education system guaranteeing a job. But when it comes to entrepreneurship, we're in a different arena now. We're in a different zone. Because the difference between an employee and an entrepreneur is something we call risk. But it's also creativity. Because an employee can be really creative all their life, but never take that leap of faith to be an entrepreneur. And I'm one of those, by the way. Okay, I became an entrepreneur when I retired, so nearly 20 odd years ago. But there is no established pathway for an entrepreneur. In many schools, in the education system around the world, we talk about entrepreneurship on one day of the year.
Yes, I do remember that we organize a bake sale activity once in a year, and students get a chance to sell some food in that way.
Exactly. And in one day, you're supposed to come up with some creative, innovative idea, which is going to change the world. Well, the likelihood of that happening is pretty remote, really. But my point about it is I expect you had a lot of fun doing it, didn't you? It was a fun day.
Yes.
You learned a lot.
Yes. We know how to sell the product, how to communicate with the customer, how to market the product. So there are a number of things students learn. They learn by doing all these things.
And the interesting thing is, you've got lots of learning that's happened, but you haven't actually got anything practical that's taken on. I mean, the following day, you didn't go with your mates and create a company and start trading and start gathering customers.
Yes.
You went back to school. And not a lot happened, and all that learning just stood still. Whereas maybe one of your group said, "Do you know what? There's something in this entrepreneur bit. I'm going to take this on, and this is the path that I'm going to have." And although there was no established pathway, they created their own pathway, and that's what most entrepreneurs do. They create the path. Now, in Pakistan, you're fortunate these days to have something called the National Incubation Center, which is in major cities. So there's part of a pathway.
It becomes a major change in Pakistan.
Yeah, and you are going, and over here in the UK, we've had these incubation centers for the last, if I recall, for at least 15 years.
Great.
Which gives an opportunity. However, it's still not generating really successful startup businesses. And the reason for that is we haven't really got an entrepreneur's mindset. Because we're at school, we're taught how to pass exams. the entrepreneurs of the world, I mean, it's written down many times. The top 8 companies in the world all started in sheds. Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, etc., all started in a shed because it was a creative space. And we're led to believe that if you're a high school dropout or a university flop, then you're going to be a chief exec. Absolutely guaranteed. That's what these people are.
It gets a fame that if you're a college dropout, there's a more chance you become a successful entrepreneur.
Absolutely. But that's another myth.
Yes.
Because again, what they've probably learned is, you know what, I don't want to be in academia. It's really not turning me on. I want to be creative somewhere else. And this is about entrepreneurship. It's about being creative. It's about not necessarily being completely innovative, but doing something different than somebody else. So if we look at things like Uber, Airbnb, Facebook, these are very creative environments, and it's giving people what they want. And yet, what does Facebook, Uber, and Airbnb actually own? They don't own property. Airbnb doesn't own one property.
Yes.
Uber doesn't own one taxi. So again, it's being creative in that arena. Yeah. And as you know, in Pakistan, you had Careem, which Uber bought out. So you can be competitive in these type of arenas, but it takes a very strong mindset to say, I don't want to work for anybody else. I want to work for myself.
Neville, I just want to discuss that idea furthermore. What we have seen that, just to get rid of the 9-to-5 job, we get inspired by this term entrepreneur, and we jump into that pool. And we are not aware about that, how much we are ready and how much we have those skills to start the work. A number of times we just said that we are short of funds, that's why we're not doing any kind of the business. So how do you understand, how would you like to explain this concept there to become an entrepreneur and to become a successful entrepreneur?
Well, in my view, any entrepreneur is successful because they've taken that leap of faith. The key thing is to make it sustainable. Yeah. And this is all about the products or service you have. It's all about how you market yourself in the arena that you're in, and making sure that you've got enough understanding of money, finance, to make sure you're sustainable. Being an accountant, I can say you can be the most profitable company in the world and you can still go bankrupt because the cash isn't coming in quick enough. You're overdrawn at the bank. You can't pay your bills. And immediately you've got a bankrupt arena. And yet on the pages, it looks like you've got a very profitable business. So to me, there are 3 keys to success, if you like. One is money management, which is learnt technically. You can read a good book on money management and you can become fairly conversant. Marketing mastery, and I call it mastery as opposed to management. Not that it's a different M, but you need to master it. You need to know what your customers want, not what they need. Forget the needs, what they want. If you give them what they want and you can provide that at a price they're prepared to pay, you've got a sustainable business, as long as it's not costing you more than you're getting in. Again, so going back to money management. But the most important aspect of that is a mindset. And in short, I'll simplify that to being a can-do attitude. So being able to think flexibly, pragmatically, and appropriately. Be driven by a real sense of purpose. Being of positive energy, but more importantly, emotionally competent and resilient. So that in the difficult times, you're not running away from it. You're standing up to it. And the last one is to have a social brain and able to connect with other people effectively. So if you can do all those four things and they're all positive, you've got a can-do attitude, and you'll succeed. So if you've gone through the pain of being a startup, in other words, you've managed to get an income that's justified you to continue, as long as you've got that can-do attitude, you've got no problem. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a millionaire, by the way, but what it means is you've got a sustainable business. Now, whether that means you've got 1,000 rupees extra every month because you've been an entrepreneur, or 1,000,000 rupees extra every month because you've been an entrepreneur, that really is down to the products and service you're offering and the size of market that's out there. But lots of people can be very happy earning a salary and having a profit of 1,000 rupees a month, because that's a profit they would never have had.
Absolutely, Neville. The mindset is that the entrepreneurship is equal to a millionaire. If you start a business and the very next day you are expecting that there are lots of your bank balance is going to be increased in the very next day. The first thing you mentioned is very interesting, that of money management. I do remember that even in today, we have the young savers account, and if you're under 18, you get a chance to open an account, and that gives you some sense to how to run a saving account. But still, there are a number of under 18 students who do not open that account, and they're unable to run. They are unable to understand that how to handle a cash, how to manage the money. Once in on Eid, maybe you're aware about that, we received the Eid, and we are very excited to what to do with that Eid amount. Some number of times we buy some kind of toys, and then that the night was really thinking that what we have to do with that Eid amount. The thing is that, okay, how do we build that skills of the money management? Because again, the whole as you said, that cash flow, or if you're not competent to manage a cash, so obviously if you have a good business, it will become a problem for you.
You're absolutely right, and instilling these three keys that I keep talking about is really important, not just to become an entrepreneur, but also to become a really good employee, because you still have to have money management to run your household. If you're a manager in an organization, you will be responsible for the budget for that particular budget center. So every young person really needs to know that they're never going to get away for being responsible from handling either their own money, the family's money when they become a parent or what have you, or the business's money when they become a manager of a department. And typically, everyone's going to be there at some stage. And as a result of that, we need to understand the basics. And this is why I don't call it finance management. I call it money management, because it's money that makes it all go round. And if you understand, as you say in Pakistan, you've got this under 18 savers club. Why every under 18 that signs up for university isn't mandated to have that account, I don't know. Because immediately it instills some form of responsibility and accountability around their own funds. And if we can start that earlier, all the better.
Absolutely, you're right. I have one more problem, which I want to understand that when we try to encourage the concept of the entrepreneurship, there's another counter argument which we have received, that if we all become entrepreneurs, so from where we get the workers, or from where we get the employees to work for us. So how do we deal with this kind of the mindset?
Well, there's a very famous phrase in corporate world where the CFO turns around and says, what's the point in training all of our employees? What if they leave? And the chief exec or the CHRO will turn around and say, what if they stay and we haven't trained them? So
True.
I hope that translates. I saw you smiling. But in essence, the best thing any organization can do is invest in their people. And indeed, I'm sure you will have heard for many years in most business articles that the best asset of an organization is its people.
True.
Coming from a finance world, an accountant that actually knows that you do not value people on the balance sheet. They're an expense, which is great to me.
True.
They should be valued on the balance sheet somehow. Perhaps you might call that goodwill in certain arenas, but we should value our personnel on the balance sheet. But we only value
Exactly.
hard cash, hard assets, buildings,
Yes. Yes.
stock. Those have got value, but people haven't.
We still are unable to identify that's our current asset or non-current asset.
Exactly. You got the terminology off well. But the key thing here is when we're talking about small businesses fundamentally, which is really the entrepreneur arena where it starts, the likelihood is that all of your employees are not entrepreneurial and you're the only entrepreneur. So even in a business that's 50, 60 strong, the likelihood is there's only one or two of you with that entrepreneurial mindset. That entrepreneur that's prepared to invest more in the organization. And the reason I say that is in difficult times, COVID in particular, a lot of people realized that the only way they could keep their job is to take a pay cut. But as soon as COVID opened up, they were asking for the money back. Now, that isn't an entrepreneur typically. That's an employee. This isn't set in stone, by the way, but it's fairly good rule of thumb to follow. So, should an entrepreneur be worried about people leaving his organisation or her organisation? The answer is no. I'd celebrate it. I would create that as a success because that person's been with you, they've grown with you, they've added value to your organisation. The last thing you should be doing is saying, get out, there's the door. What you should be doing is saying, I'm really sorry you're going, but I'm glad you've had the experience. Let's celebrate with a cake.
Yeah.
It's a different attitude, okay? But I know there's lots of businesses around the world that do that because it's the right attitude.
It gives you a positive vibe, it gives you a positive energy. And maybe if he wants to come back after a certain period of time, so you have a good relation.
Exactly. You never leave on bad terms. I mean, for most of my life, I worked in the oil industry, and it's a very incestuous industry. You tend to find that people are in one company one year, and then all of a sudden they turn up in another company the following year. Why they've moved doesn't matter. Whether it was for money, opportunity, location, it doesn't matter. But you see them again. So you never lose a relationship because someone says, I've outgrown my stay here, I need to move on. That should be celebrated. And the other thing is, when you celebrate it, what are you doing for the people that are still in the organization? What does it say to them?
That's the main point.
Exactly. It says, this is a great place to work. Why would I want to leave? And then you've got people that are saying, oh, well, I wonder if they're going to replace that person. Maybe I've got an opportunity to grow. I wonder whether it's worth me having a word with the boss about where the company's going and how I fit in. Those are the really positive discussions you can have in an organization. And once you've got an open organization, it doesn't have to come from the top down. So as you get into a bigger organization, you get an annual appraisal once a year. My view is you should have an appraisal every time you need one. Now, that might be daily or weekly. If you're doing really well, why not daily? If you're doing really badly, why not daily? Because you need the reinforcement. So this growth arena, this growth arena isn't about your technical ability typically. It's about your leadership skills, your team building skills. I hope this is
I haven't noticed that. during the before the appraisal period, then before the 3 to 6 months, the employees start working it to get a good appraisal. And once the appraisal process has finished, and they start again back to that normal routine. So again, this is such a difficult for the organization to make sure that the employee must work 20 all the working days.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, let's make it simple, okay? You're a nice guy. When you get up in the morning, do you look forward to doing what you do? Are you really looking forward to going to your day job?
Yes.
There you go. But there's a reason for that, because you're motivated to do it.
You need to know what's the reason. You need to understand it, why you are going, and what value you are going to add in the organization. Even more thing that I discuss. To continue.
Well, if you know what value you're offering the organization, then you feel valued, number one, but you also know that you're helping grow the organization, and you can actually say, excuse me, I'm doing really well here. How about remembering that I'm a good employee, And that doesn't have to make more money, by the way. And if you have to say that, actually, your leadership should be embarrassed. Yes. Because they should be saying it to you.
True. Now, one more point I want to add it here. What happening around in the circle is that you want to move or change the organization, you want to move the job. But what happened that in the last 3 years or 5 years, we haven't made any good thing, or we haven't made any good thing, or saving or same goes with the organization. So when we have to move to another organization, we face the problem in the last 5 years where you're working, what value you add. So what the concept comes into the mind, even if you want to give a resignation, before to give a resignation, which I call resignation theory, before to give a resignation, before to submit a resignation, do some work in that organization, add some value in that organization before to move to another organization. So what will happen that you will become a creative, you have something to speak, you have something to discuss with another organization. Okay, this is I have been made, this is the projects I have been done. But unfortunately, we have to move to organization. And if the question was there, what you have been done previously, the answer is that the just daily routine tasks, which anyone can do it.
It's a difficult question to answer generally, because all of these questions really should be around a particular context. So let's create that context, okay? The company you're currently working for is really good. You've got some really good relationships in the company, and you don't want to, you don't want to leave and leave them in a hole. You've been a very responsible individual in the organization, and you really want to do your best as an exit strategy. Well, if you do that, you're going to be having constant conversations with your boss or the owner, and they're going to know that whatever language you're using, it's time for you to move on. And if you can become open with the organization, and at the same time the owner or your manager has that open discussion with you, that's one thing. Typically, most organizations are not open. And if you were to walk into your boss and say, do you know, boss, the last 3 years I haven't really enjoyed myself, and in 3 months' time I'm going to be leaving. Okay, I can see you smiling. That's never going to happen, is it, if you don't trust your boss? So it will happen if you do trust your boss, but the likelihood is that it's not going to happen. So the best thing to do, and again, this is about not burning your bridges, always leaving a relationship in its best state, is to do your best. And if that means being a bit more creative, because you've really got to get back in and get engaged in the organization, you've got to like what you're doing, because if you move on, even if you like what you're doing there, you've got to change your attitude. Because, as you say, you may have been dwindling down over 3 years, and your performance has been reduced over 3 years, so you're not being that creative. So if you did have a spurt on to be creative, it will put you in a better mindset for moving on. And then, interestingly enough, you might find you like it. You might find you like where you are. So my advice to anyone thinking of doing that is, why don't you just put a little bit more effort in where you are? Just imagine it was 3 years ago. Imagine what you were doing. Imagine how much fun you were having. Go and try and rekindle some of that and just see whether or not it's there. It may not be, but give it a short chance to be there. Because if it is there, all of a sudden, actually, I quite like my job. I don't need to move. But equally, it will put you in a better mindset for looking around and for another opportunity. So again, there's no simple answer to this. There's no easy answer, but there's a simple answer. And the simple answer is the one we should be going after.
Do I agree?
Yeah,
so Neville, the one thing which I've been discussed just before the show, and that's a very interesting thing. I have been discussed this question with a number of the university teachers as well in Pakistan. There are a number of the business institutes who are teaching business like the BBA and the MBA, but it's still that, and there's a number of students who are passed out from those universities. But we have not seen that output as well in the market. Output in terms of that, the market or the society expecting from those business graduates that they are going to put the value in the society, they are going to add value in the ecosystem of the startups or the entrepreneurship or the new business ideas. But what happened that was they graduate from the business institutes, they became the part of the business. So don't you think so that's unfair with the society, unfair with that ecosystem? Those were expecting some new ideas from those business students and they become the part of the existing businesses. How would you explain this idea?
This is quite complicated. So I'll try and make it as easy as possible. If a creative goes into and get a Masters of Business Administration, i.e. goes into the business arena, then the likelihood is you will get an entrepreneur out of it. However, passing exams, whether it's maths, physics, or business, doesn't make a creative and it doesn't make an entrepreneur.
True.
It won't make a link between the academic insurgents, if you like, of business students, and for that I include accountants and marketing professionals. It doesn't make them entrepreneurs. What makes them an entrepreneur is to go and see how they handle risk, go and see how they can handle the pressure of running their own organization. That's a big leap that many people do not take. As I said, although in corporate life I met lots of these entrepreneurs, small businesses, scaling businesses that we'd help scale, the common element of that entrepreneurial mindset was literally taking a risk. And as you said before, not many 18-year-olds have opened this bank account. Now that isn't a risk. And if they can't take a simple instruction to go and manage your future life by handling money in a bank that's going to give you a rate of return, if they can't take that risk, what risk will they take?
Not just sorry to cut you and want to add one thing about the risk. What happened that when the child grew in a society and when he wanted to do something, so what the parents and what the society said that don't do this, avoid this, you will get harmed, you will face a problem. And every time in the whole journey of the school life, from the day he was born, he or she, and the time of the 15 or 16 years, they have not able to make a decision. Every time decision imposed on them. We have not given them this space to them to make a decision. We are not giving space to them to respect the decision as well. So when we are not giving them the environment to making a decision, so why we are expecting from those that they will become a risk taker in their life? Don't you think so that it's a sad reality of the society?
It's a reality of society. I'm not too sure it's a sad reality. But let me take you back to when you were a baby. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a very simple question. Can you walk?
Can you?
Can you walk?
Yes, yes.
Okay. How did you learn to walk?
I don't remember, but yes, the thing is that curiosity to move from our space where I work.
You mentioned the word curiosity. So when you were learning to walk, you had curiosity. You wanted to
Yes,
explore.
yes, yes.
You didn't go to school to learn to walk, did you?
True.
You didn't read a book to learn to walk, did you?
So true.
You did it by watching, observing, and doing it because it was
Yes,
exciting.
yes,
And you did learn to walk because you told me you can walk.
yes.
Did you know that nearly all babies, and the only exception is the ones that are physically impaired, but all babies can walk?
Dismiss it.
You're shocked, aren't you, that all babies can
Yes,
walk? Yes,
yes,
shock, isn't it? So all babies were creative, they were explorative, they were excited. Isn't those the characteristics of an entrepreneur?
yeah,
Creative,
yes,
excitive.
yes, yes, yes. So it
So
means that the society
we
killing
all could have been entrepreneurs.
all those characteristics. So basically, society killing all those characteristics from us.
Yeah, and there's a great TED talk from Sir Ken Robinson, which talks about schools killing creativity.
Yeah,
I recommend everyone watches it. It's only 12, 40 minutes long. It's on TED Talks, and just typing Sir Ken Robinson or Ken Robinson. It's the most watched TED Talk that's out there. And schools do kill creativity. Do teachers intend to kill creativity? No, they don't set out to kill creativity. Education systems don't set out
system.
to kill creativity. It's just the way things are. And the point is, we now need to do something different because we need to stop killing creativity.
Yeah,
In the Karachi News Times, literally in the last few days, the head of the HEC has said our school system is not doing us any good.
yeah. I've just read that.
And he's absolutely right. But what I will say is Pakistan doesn't have a monopoly on it. The majority of systems in the world, education systems, are not doing the job that we need. They're doing the job that was needed 30, 40 years ago.
Absolutely.
So today we need, of course, we need talented young people, but we want creative young people, not just I've got a degree in maths or physics. We need young people that can communicate like this, that can work in a team, that can lead, that can listen, that
Yeah,
can think. They don't all have to be entrepreneurs because maybe they don't want to be. So for instance, I know lots of people that are really good at bookkeeping and they love bookkeeping. They think it's exciting, but they don't want to become an accountant. So don't even mention the word accountant to them because they're very happy where they are. And that's fine. So if people are happy where they are, give them the opportunity to say, well, if you're not, here's an opportunity. But if they're so happy, don't force it on them. No, not everyone wants to climb the corporate ladder. We need to accept that. So we don't need millions of entrepreneurs. That's not what we need. We need really good entrepreneurs that have got a good product, a good service, a good mentoring group, well-financed, good at marketing. That's what we need. And that will stop the 80% of startup failures.
We need quality, not quantity.
We need absolute quality, not quantity. And we need quality before they start on the entrepreneur journey. They need to know if he or she has that extra something that's called risk, generally, to start a business. And we see lots of freelancers. I mean, the
Yes.
eastern part of this world are freelancers. Every single one of those is an entrepreneur. We got thousands of entrepreneurs. We just don't celebrate. We call them freelancers, but we don't celebrate the fact they're entrepreneurs. Very few freelancers create a freelancing group because they go on their own. That means they're definitely an entrepreneur.
And we have seen a great work by the freelancers in the last 5 to 8 years in Pakistan, and they're doing a great job. Even though the government is also recognizing and giving the number of perks.
Yeah, exactly. And we, freelancer is just another word for being outsourced. I have business cards in my current business, and when I had a proper job in corporate life, we didn't have a printing team in house. We outsourced it. Who did we outsource it to? A freelancer. Yes. Now, whether they were working in a franchise or whether they were working on their own, it doesn't matter. But they were independent. So there are lots of people out there that are entrepreneurs. And it's as simple as that. Just look at a few, don't look at the history of Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or someone like that. Look in your own arena. Look at the corner shop, That person's an entrepreneur. It may be a family-run business, but it's an entrepreneur.
Well, previously I have done one session with the Karachi University teacher, and he said the same thing, is that we get inspired by the fancy videos or by the high-profile personalities, and those most of the time the cases are not from Pakistan. And we think that it's such a difficult task and such a difficult phase to get that position and get that phase. So a number of times we stop to struggle to get that position. But if we discuss the local case studies, the local case examples, the local organizations who become a brand, who make a change in the society, so we are in position to adopt that method. We are in that phase to adopt that case and make some product to the market.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And part of what you said there was why I compiled this book, Everything You Should Have Learned at School But Didn't.
Yeah, that's the book which I want to discuss. What is it all about?
Well, it is everything you should have learned at school but didn't.
I just started reading it today, and the things I like about it, do's and the don'ts. And in the don'ts, they mentioned that don't read it book too fast, take your time and then read it. I like that one.
Well, this is it's not really a book in like science fiction or reading about someone's life. This is a handbook. So this is 25 chapters. Yes. Chapters different. There's a mix of men and women. So we've got a gender balance. We've got young and old. So we've definitely got a gender balance. The youngest participant is 14. He's now 15, but he was 14 when the book was launched. And our oldest is into his 70s. We've got people of all walks of life. We've got some internationals in there, but a lot of these are Pakistanis, because the key to me was to change the methodology, get young people to think, actually, the future is all in their hands. It doesn't matter what your career's advice has been saying to you. If you've got the right attitude, you can go and do anything. You're young enough to even do another degree, if that's important. But the key thing is you can take control. And each of these chapters is contributed by a different person on a different subject. In fact, what I'll do, I've got it over here. I'll just read a couple of chapter headings so people can understand, right? So chapter 1, the value of failure. Chapter 5, sales is the lifeblood of a business. Chapter 6, what it takes to be an entrepreneur. Chapter 8, resolving conflicts. 9, a young girl's life. Overcome your fears, your personal brand. There's more to sport than fitness. Pay attention to tiny hints and signals in your life. Now, these are all real people that have contributed to the chapter. Each chapter is no more than 5 or 6 pages long. And as you know, Mudassir, it's a simple read. There's nothing complicated in this read. It's a fairly simple read. You need to unmute yourself.
I just
Mute yourself. That's it.
forget.
You just forgot. You're carried away in the discussion and you forgot.
Yeah. The
You were
thing
going to
is that
say
about that book, that is the way you design it, the way you structure it, it's such a fantastic. And whoever is going to read that book, they are able to make the certain points. Because most of the time when I read the books, so I start reading from the chapter. But I read that book from the very first page, all the points which you have mentioned, the do's, the don'ts, each and everything. And to start making a sense that hey, what is it all about? And you mentioned that this is the first edition of that book, and we are expecting the more editions in the upcoming time. So I really like that book. Even I doubt. I just if you have that PDF, you can share on my screen. I was looking for it. I have my PC right now. If you have the PDF, to just do. Oh yes.
and
Everything you should
there's a,
have.
as in a school,
I like that
there's a
tree. I like
branch.
the tree.
Well, as most people in education know, it's a tree of knowledge, but ours
Yeah.
isn't a tree of knowledge, it's a tree of experiences.
I was looking for that picture, and I have noticed that all the points which have been mentioned that regarding the different skills which you need to build, which you need to create.
And it's just this is the first chapter, if you like, in a series of 5 or 6 books. This one was about the importance of attitude and soft skills. The future books will be about money, about branding, marketing, about relationships, about entrepreneurship, and we've got another one that we're thinking about, but we haven't really launched yet. So this is just the first one, and this isn't, we haven't got Steve Jobs in there. We might have a quote from Steve Jobs, but we haven't got Steve Jobs in there. But we've got some pretty important people in Pakistan that have taken time out.
I've seen that Kamran Rizvi and many more.
Yep, many more, and they're all taking their time out. And the other thing we should mention to everybody is the book's free on the download. Yep. We can share the download. There's a small charge on Amazon, but that's nothing to do with us. It's the way Amazon work. But the book's free, so please download it, read it, and as Mudasir said, there's one page that says how to read this book. You shouldn't be told how to read a book, but this is about taking your time. Soft skills. If you start on a communication course on a Monday, you're not going to be an expert by Friday. You'll have a bit more knowledge, a bit more understanding. I'm 63 and I'm not an expert in communication, and I've been doing it for 62 and a half years. So I'm trying to understand what my grandson's saying when he's 3 months old, because he's not talking my language, he's talking something else. But and that's how it can be in business if you're not careful. People can be talking in the same language but not understanding each other.
Yes.
And we need to keep things. It happens all the time.
Basically, everyone want to. No one is going to be listen. Everyone will just want to speak it out whatever's in their mind, but no one bother to listen. What's the point they want to make it?
Yep.
Again, thank you so much, Neville. The way the time passed out, I'm really honored. Thank you so much to join this show. And the important and interesting part which I have been understanding is that the 3 key rules which you discussed, the money management, the marketing mastery, and the mindset. And these all 3 are the points in which we are lacking. It's still about the money management. The country's condition, how much we are managing our money. Second thing is the marketing, where we are lacking. We need to understand that how to create a brand, how to build a brand, and how to market ourselves. Most of the time we don't know how. Even you mentioned in the last chapter of that, because the curriculum vitae or CV, how do we need to design that CV? How do we, whatever we have done, whatever we have achieved, how do we mention that CV? So these are the great points which you need to understand, that which you need, and the most important, the soft skills, how to communicate. Even Most of the time, we are able to understand that what is the purpose of the communication, what they want to tell, and they want to understand from that. So these all are the key points which we have to understand that, which we and a great example is that the how do you learn to walk, and when you know that when you are able to walk them without the fear. So these all are the skills which makes you a good entrepreneur. The closing remarks from your side, Neville.
Well, just closing remarks. Thank you for having me on your show. We've done a first on LinkedIn, which is always good. So we are entrepreneurial, doing a first, and really is it really is very simple when you start to break things down. It may not be easy. I appreciate if you've not really approached this in any form of way, practiced it at all prior to today, it's going to be difficult.
Yes.
But we will make it as simple as it can be. And the first step I suggest is download the book, read it slowly. Yes. There is so much information in that book, practical information about what you can do. Every chapter has at least 4 questions at the end of it. And they're not questions about someone else. They're questions about you. Who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it? Do you know who you are? Do you know how good you are? So this, as I say, this is the first step that I can encourage everybody to do, mainly because we've made it free and we've made it an easy read. So you don't have to rush it. It's only 130 pages long.
Yeah.
You know, if you just read 1 chapter a day, you'd be finished it in 25 days. So in less than a month, by 1 chapter a day, and by the way, that'll take you 5 minutes. Exactly. It's readable. So you can put it in your diary, in your digital diary, and just says, read the book, read the book, read the book. So it reminds you, you spend less time reading the book than you will do in the bathroom every day. And if your personal hygiene is important to you, treat this as your mental hygiene.